Hey guys, your boy MKS again. Nearly 1:30 now, so I really should sleep earlier. For anyone who's stumbled across this video, please check out part 1 and stroke or 2. Check out part 1 and 2 preferably in that order. I hope you like this video. As ever, I was just trying to get myself comfortable. But anyway, sorry. I want to continue with this list. I was thinking of reasons to support India. As I said, I did part 1, which was points 1 to 10, part 2, points 11 to 20, and now I'm doing part 3. And I've really got to cut back on my tea, intake. Hope I won't be too tired when I make this video, and I hope I'll be coherent enough. I'll say, hope someone out there will enjoy it. Please feel free to disagree or agree as you see fit. Obviously, I'm prepared if you agree, but I'm prepared to listen to alternative sides of the argument. But anyway, I'll get back to the video, which I should have planned a bit better. So I was talking about reasons to support India. 21. I think that given India's history, to recap some of the points, like I think India's contributions to the world, I think have been some great contributions, generally speaking, which have gone underappreciated. And that's one of the reasons why I think it would be good to support India, given the history of how many things it's invented, created, and things like that have gone, as I say, underappreciated. Like even I think chess was invented in India, many medical things and things like that, which are finally being appreciated that they came from India. 22. I think that European countries who colonized other people and subjugated the people have had an unfair advantage. And so again, I go back to the point about which I mentioned before about justice, and why I think it would be just reason to support India. I should be careful what I say, as I said before, but I don't want to be part of the New World Order. But which many people talk about. Hopefully, India wouldn't be part of that. But gosh, I should be careful what I say, perhaps. Although it's supposed to be freedom of speech and all that. But yeah, if I had lots of money, I think I'd much rather support India than almost any other country, personally, because I believe that they were wronged, and I would probably try and put as much conditions about not invading other countries or trying not to go to war unless they really have to onto India, in exchange for the support that I would give to make the world a better place, hopefully, including human rights, animal rights, and things like that. But yeah, so I think that if you look at Britain or countries like Britain or even dare I say America, they invade. Well, some may say America even more. I don't want to slag them off, but invade a lot of countries or go to a lot of wars and things like that. Whereas hopefully India, I mean, I know people could say India goes to war with like a country like Pakistan, and I'd rather see the two countries get on better, because I think it'd be better for the poor people. I think it'd be better for the world. I think it'd be more beneficial, as I say, to both countries. So I think were, dare I say, as I say, robbed by colonialism, empire, whatever you want to call it. So I think it's when they fight each other, I think it's a great injustice, but also the poor suffer, and people who sell weapons and make a lot of money gain. So not that I'm against people making money, but I just think that that's not a good way to make money. So as I hope I'm making some sense, but I think it would be great to see India and Pakistan do better, especially where they've got nuclear weapons. A lot of people would suffer if they go to war. A lot of poor people in India and Pakistan. So if you care about the poor, I think you don't want to see more wars, which really help the rich much more than the poor. So if I think that people, like if Muslims or Christians or other groups say that they want to see poor people they want to see things better for the poor, I think that going to war is a really bad thing. It always affects the poor in a bad way and benefits the rich, almost always, as far as I'm aware. And a lot of people would suffer. So I would love to see India and Pakistan do better. And I'd love to support groups in both India and Pakistan who want to see peace between the two. And I'd love to see Pan-Asianism, Pan-Africanism, and the group, the company I'd love to create, the East India Company, which I talked about in one of my previous videos not too long ago. Before I made parts 1 and 2 of this, was one of the things I'd love to do is make Pan-Asianism and also encourage Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialism, in countries from Africa and Asia generally to work together, all 54 African countries and all of the Asian countries, however many there are. Excuse me, sorry. And even indigenous people of Australasia or Oceania, whichever you prefer to call it, and the Americas. So apologies if I've repeated it for those who've seen my videos before, but so I'd love to see them network together more. But anyway, I'm going to move on to 23 because I don't want this video to be too long. But 23, hopefully, I mean, there's a lot of poverty in India, so I hope by supporting India, we could help a lot of poor people make more peace, just generally support the poor and things like that. 24, as I say, like India is I think the world's largest democracy, and as an anti-imperialist, sorry, I wish to support them as they were colonized. I think people from colonized countries all over Asia and Africa, I think, should support India, in my opinion. As I say, I'd love to see a Pan-Asianism and China and India working together more, and again, an end to some of the as much of the division as possible in Asian countries, especially between India, Pakistan, and China and Japan and countries like that. I'd love to see them work more together and end some of these hostilities as well as the African countries. So there's loads of homeless, poor people in India, and I love to support them. And I think if you care about the poor, there's still a lot of problems in India in spite of its growth. That would be a good reason to support India. If a lot of Christian charities, I think if they support the poor in India, then I think they can have a peaceful conversion to Christianity, because I think a lot of people in India who might be treated bad by the caste system will see that Christianity is about looking after the poor. So I think personally that it could even be a good Christian reason, as I've talked about before in point 7. I talked about the justice reason, but also that helping the poor would make more people potentially embrace Christianity, because they see that Christianity is not about being against the poor, but is rather for the poor. I hope I'm making sense again. As I say, but yeah, supporting the poor, disabled, and other oppressed groups and disadvantaged groups in India, I think would be really great. And I'd definitely love to fundraise for them. I think I missed some points there. So I said 24, 25. I personally think that because it's a republic, I would love to support India, as I personally prefer a republic. So that's another reason why I personally would love to support India. 26, again, as an anti-imperialist, because they were colonized, I think people of color especially should work together more and support India. 27, I think to reward India for all the good work it's done around the world, in terms of peace, not invading other countries, perhaps. As far as I'm aware, I think they say India's never invaded another country or things like that, or tried to impose its way of life onto other people. And also from an Anglo-Indian point of view, I think, like when the empire ended, like in some countries, mixed race people like Anglo-Indians, equivalent in, or Eurasians, other Eurasian groups like in Vietnam or other countries, were treated quite badly because they were blamed for, if I'm not mistaken, they were blamed for the colonization. But as far as I'm aware, I don't know if other Anglo-Indians who were actually brought up in India or have been to India or lived in India for a while or whatever could say differently. But as far as I'm aware, I think India's always treated Anglo-Indians, I hope I don't speak soon, but I think India's always treated Anglo-Indians well. And even like, because we spoke English and we had an affinity to British culture, so, or English culture specifically, in particular, sorry, we wanted to come to Britain, but apparently when Empire ended, Britain said you can't come to, Anglo-Indians can't come to countries like Britain, because they didn't want us in Britain, but India said we could stay and have our own spaces. Like I think there's a place called Bow Barracks, how we pronounce it. My pronunciation is not the best at the best of times, but yeah, I think India looked after, as far as I'm aware anyway. So I think to reward India, I think, in my opinion, the Anglo-Indian community owes a lot to India for looking after us, allowing us to stay in India after the end of Empire. Allowing us seats in Parliament is another thing they did for us. They gave us rights, citizens' rights. As I say, as a minority group, they allowed us seats in Parliament. I don't know much about how the Indian Parliament works, but they allowed, I think it's called the lower house or whatever, but they allowed us a certain representation politically. They allowed us to speak our own language. They allowed us to follow our own religion, our own customs. And generally speaking, the government looked after us. As far as I'm aware, as I say, my fellow Anglo-Indians could tell me if I'm wrong in that one, but I think there's a book by an Anglo-Indian called Frank Anthony, which stated a tale of British betrayal in India, where the Anglo-Indian community felt was betrayed by the British, as we wanted to speak English and follow the English way of life, or the British way of life, but we were not welcome in the UK initially. As again, my fellow Anglo-Indians or other groups could tell me if I'm wrong in this one, like any of my points. If you can prove me wrong, that's fair enough. But as far as I'm aware, we were not welcome in Britain, initially at least. And India, I think, has never really, and I hope they never will either, but they've never, and I think if Anglo-Indians show that we appreciate that they looked after us, hopefully they'll treat us well. But I think the Anglo-Indian communities hopefully never will be oppressed in India. I think we've always had, I know there's no welfare in India, so if you don't work, you struggle, obviously. And some Anglo-Indians have been quite poor and all that kind of stuff. We perhaps don't have, to be honest, we perhaps don't have this work ethic of Indians, so I don't want to slag off my own community. In fact, the work I do to support India, if I could, I'd also support my own communities like Anglo-Indians and dyslexic people with things in common with me, Eurasians and people like that. But yeah, I think, as I say, they've given us seats in Parliament. They didn't kick us out. They didn't kick us out of the country. They gave us seats in Parliament. They allowed us to follow our own way of life and culture. They left us in peace. And I think even many Indians probably associated with Indians for various reasons. Like, I was speaking to one Anglo-Indian, an older chap, and he said one of the points he made was that that the Indian community got on very well with Anglo-Indians because we didn't discriminate on caste or religion. So a lot of the older generations of Indians really respect Anglo-Indians more than like Hindus and Muslims or Sikhs or other groups didn't always get on well. But apparently with Anglo-Indians, they got on well with us because we treated them equally. So we got on well, I think, with the Muslims or the Christians or the Sikhs or any other, or Hindus or any other community, as far as I'm aware. Again, if you have other information, then please feel free to share it. But so I think there's a lot of things that India did for Anglo-Indians, and lots of rights that they gave us that Britain or possibly even other countries might not have given us. Another thing is, 28, I think that Anglo-Indians were actually an experiment. Again, I mean, this same Anglo-Indian guy that I was talking to in Australia, who I just mentioned in point 27, who said that about the Anglo-Indian community or whatever, also disputed this point, but it is said that Anglo-Indians were actually created kind of to divide India. The British wanted to divide India to make it easier to govern, so they thought if we create Anglo-Indians, they'll speak a different language and follow a different way of life, and they won't want to get involved in independence or anything like that. So we were actually made to divide India. I've talked about before about my patterns, and I say 28 is the number I say, making positives from negatives. So what I say is that because Anglo-Indians were made to divide India, I think we should, if that's correct, I definitely think we should be a group that actually helps to unite India. And also, we were made perhaps for imperialist reasons, and I think we should perhaps support anti-imperial causes to support Asian and African nations, especially India, in my opinion, as I say. 29, I personally would love to support Anglo-Indians and dyslexics and other groups in India, who I think need a lot of help as well because of the poverty in India. But as I say before, I think the biggest reason why I want to support India is because not just to solve poverty, but or to help people in poverty, but also because I feel it's more just to help India. Because, as I say, to me, to help Britain, and especially the military, I should be careful what I say again, but if I'm using freedom of speech, it would be akin to helping someone who burgles houses versus someone whose houses were burgled. So that's why I'd want to support people in Africa and Asia, indigenous communities, because I believe that their homes or way of life was threatened and burgled and things like that. So I hope that makes sense. I say, and 30, I would love to hear your reasons for or against or for, respectively. Saving the best till last. And supporting India. I hope I didn't waffle too much. I hope I made some sort of sense. I appreciate this video's gone on quite long, actually. So I hope it wasn't too long. I hope someone out there would enjoy it, watch it, and share it with other people and see what they think. Yeah, so I think there's lots of good reasons to support India, and I would love to support certain groups that say in India, like Dalits, the poorest people, the homeless people, the poorest 10% people. I love to support causes like animal rights, human rights, freedoms, support young girls to get education, get an education and be treated better by their family. Female rights, I say, and empowerment, as I call it, including entrepreneurs and females in politics, and my fellow dyslexics, the dyslexic community. I love the people in India to learn about the famous dyslexics, especially entrepreneurs, and how dyslexic people might not be great in a classroom but can do well in other areas. So as I say, sorry for my waffling. Hope someone out there enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think. As ever, please don't hold back your feedback. I really appreciate it, even if you disagree. Hopefully you'll be polite, but I'm not going to say, oh, you have to agree with me, because that'd be boring if everyone agreed, for one thing. So I'd love to have your own opinion, and I really appreciate any support for this channel, especially if you agree, of course. But peace and love. Good night, all.